We're good to go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming for our first fall semester Science in Action speaker series. We will have Chad Kealoha presenting for us. This is thanks to the HSI and Title V grant and produced by STEM at CSM. We're going to have a lot more events going on this fall semester. So to help with that, and one of the biggest one coming up is the Family Science Day on September 30th. So there's some flyers around there if you want to check it out. If you guys are also hoping to maybe participate in that, we are always looking for volunteers. If you're interested, just see me afterwards. But otherwise, please make sure to take the survey afterwards, after the talk. That really helps in our feedback, okay? So I'll just hand it over.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Chad. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm a very informal person, very, very informal. So if you have any questions throughout, feel free to stop me, raise your hand, shout it out. Don't care. Yeah, my name's Chad Kealoha. That's my beautiful wife right there, the creepy person recording everything. Yeah. So yeah, just a little bit about me. So I was born in Hawaii. That's where I'm from. I then moved out to Illinois in the middle of nowhere. Then eventually made it back home to Hawaii. Started college. Eventually got college internship, and that's when I kind of had to enter into the workforce. Eventually got into a college internship in exobionics. We'll talk more about exo. They do some pretty cool stuff there. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention I got married. Started working at a place called Chai. They do some pretty cool stuff with COVID and beer. They do a lot of beer stuff. It's pretty cool. Became a father of that little beautiful thing right there. And where I'm at now in my professional career over at Johnson & Johnson. So one of the things, whenever you see charts like this, that I always find strange is that's not how life actually works. That's just not, life isn't super linear. You get people that talk about the messy middle, how you start at one point, get all the way out here, and it's just messy in the middle. Where I don't really agree with that either. That just says you're on one path and it's gonna take you wherever it needs to get to. That's not life. This is life. This is the messy part, to where it is a humongous flow chart, where each and every single one of your decisions changes something. Your decisions matter. And it's that's kind of been a guiding thing in my life, to where decide what drives these decisions. And what I really found is the needs of the people drive the decisions. You're always going to kind of cater to your needs and move forward with that. And one of the things with being an engineer, you have to better understand these needs, not only for yourself, but more of the products you make. Your decisions and the needs matter. So everything starts with the beginning. Mine's in Hawaii. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, where I was born out there. This is where I went to elementary school, right over there. I have one older brother. Like many kids, parents split when I was pretty early. If you've never been to Hawaii, Hawaii is incredibly expensive, ridiculously expensive. So single parent income, we moved around a lot, kind of help out with that. Eventually, we moved into the middle of nowhere in Southern Illinois. My mom was tired of that financial struggle. So we moved to a place to where it was easier to survive. It's really what it came down to. So we moved to Southern Illinois, where my mom's side of the family's from. And we moved into this tiny little town called Willisville. And it is middle of nowhere. My closest neighbor was 2 miles away. Population less than 600 people. If you think about that in California, a lot of times your high school, your year is more than the entire town. It's pretty crazy to think about. Willisville is a really poor area. Less than 20% live below the poverty line, and my family was one of them. It's this place where you kind of drive in and you see a bunch of trailer parks, and it's just trailer parks and corn, and that's Willisville. Very big culture shock. Coming from Hawaii to Illinois. It's just very different. It framed a lot of things in my later life. Eventually, got to go back to Hawaii. This is babyface Chad. It's me. My first real big life decision when I was 15, I got a chance to move back in with my grandparents. And for me, that was great. Really took me out of the Illinois loop and gave me a chance to do something different with my life. Got into Marinell High School, Spartans. Whoop, whoop. That's where I joined the robotics team. This was actually my senior capstone project. If you can actually see it, we figured out a way to make things float, like levitate, without any moving parts. So if you look closely, like, this whole thing's floating. That's Brandy wondering what the heck I was doing. But yeah, it was pretty cool. We use a lot of our entry-level understanding of electronics to pretty much shock air. And when you shock air, it's naturally going to break apart and the electrons will float. And so if you do that at the right modulation, you can actually just use tinfoil and funnel air, and then things start to float. So it's just zapping the heck out of the air. But it's actually pretty cool. That is where a lot of research is actually going into to make airplanes that don't actually move. They just kind of float and move. So pretty cool. And then, yeah, I also had a job in the summer times, mostly, working at a local electrical company in a warehouse, material expediter, move stuff from one place to another, clean stuff, that kind of thing. Eventually, time came to go to college. I knew I wanted to go into engineering, and that was primarily due to robotics in high school. That's when I found out that was my nerd zone. That's the thing I loved. I loved playing with things that moved. And I somehow got into a great robotics program at Worcester Polytech. They were the only college in the world that had a degree in robotics that really focused on that. But being a poor kid, can't afford it. Didn't go there. So instead, I went to University of the Pacific for mechanical engineering. UOP, absolutely great program in engineering, and they do a lot for financial aid. So if you're looking at 4 years, UOP, I would really recommend it. I definitely needed help scholastically. You know how some people, they're just like naturally smart and they get stuff? This is not me. Didn't work. So I went to UH and Kapiolani Community College during the summers, really like bring up my educational backing so I could really compete with my fellow students. And I just really want to point out, so when I went into engineering, into college, I really went into it for the wrong reasons. I grew up poor. I went into engineering because people say you make a ton of money. I thought it was one of these things where like I could go into a room like all day and not like have to talk to people and just like math and stuff. That's like, but yeah, I see for the right one. College life. Did you not pass? There we go. Again, babyface chat. So I was in a fraternity. I was in a social fraternity. Pi Kappa Alpha. Pikes. Yeah. We did a lot of fun stuff. We also did good stuff for the community. This is one of the good things we did. Every now and then we'd go up and clean up like in the surrounding area. And it was great. I would definitely recommend joining a social fraternity if that's something that you think would help you. It definitely helped me get out of my my bubble, get out there, meet people. When I was there, I also met my future wife, standing in the back. And when I was there, I also found out that I was kind of decent at math. I found out that higher level math, like the super high level stuff, it's not so much about the numbers anymore, but it's the thought process. I found out I kind of had a brain for it. So added applied mathematics as a double major, and it helps out tremendously, especially in mechanical engineering. Like it helps out a ton. You're gonna learn a lot of math you don't actually use in mechanical engineering, but you understand the concepts. And when you get into these crazy problems, you'll see that the crazy problem is just another math description from a textbook. If you got a knack for math, definitely get into it, learn it, understand it. It's definitely helped me. Eventually got into a college internship over at E&J Gallon Winery in Livingston, California. I was a production engineering intern. So E&J Gallon Winery, the one in Livingston, is the world's largest winery, which is pretty cool. So if you ever want to learn about wine, they do a lot of great internships. I would say definitely try to check them out. They do internships as early as high school. So if you are interested, they do great stuff there. So what I did there was I designed and oversaw the implementation of something called a water-aided fermentation system. And so when you get into like high scale, like food, beverage manufacturing, that's when you really learn like all the crazy stuff that goes along with it. So water-aided fermentation, it really, what it comes down to is how do you legally water down wine? And there's a lot of like legal aspects to that. But yeah, every wine manufacturer does it. Water-aided fermentation, fancy name. But it's pretty much, you pick your grapes early. When you pick them early, they have a really high sugar content. And if you were to ferment those directly, your wine would taste absolutely disgusting. But if you add water, you can use that high sugar content to make more wine than you naturally would have if you just waited for the grape to naturally mature. So it's, you get wine faster, you get it cheaper, and it tastes pretty much the same. Water-aided fermentation. But yeah, that's when I really learned that food production wasn't for me. You learn a lot of gross things about like mass-produced food. And in the food realm, I was more comfortable not knowing about the things I ate and drank. Kind of get that? Yeah, it's gross, really gross. But eventually, got out of college, and it was time to enter the workforce. Going back home was really something that I didn't want to consider an option for myself, for a lot of reasons. Personal, financial. I thought if I moved back home, my grandma would be like standing at the door every day at 5 p.m., like wondering where I am, like, where are you, Chad? You at home right now? And I just didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that. So I grinded incredibly hard to find a job outside of college. And so I think I sent out something like, I don't know, like 60 different resumes. It was insane. I got 3 job opportunities out of those like 60 though, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I got a job out of college. So the first one was drone research in Hawaii. So would have allowed me to go back home. So Hawaii overall has a bunch of micro weather climates. So if you want to be able to test like a crazy storm at the same time, test a natural snowstorm or incredibly arid winds for drones, they have all those climates right there. So it's really good for drone research. You don't have to like take your drone and move it all across the world. One-stop shop. So drone research. The other one was EXO. So that's where they do human exoskeletons. So they have 3 main parts of the business. One is military, and that's the really cool one. So Iron Man, they make human exoskeletons. It's their Iron Man version. It's called the Hulk, Human Universal Load Carrier. That was their first pass, and it was pretty much how can you get one singular person to carry all the weight that a natural infantry team has? So we're talking like tens of thousands of pounds on one person, like keep up with the team. And in a lot of areas, you can't have a car with you, like it's natural foot infantry. So how do you do that? The Hulk was the answer. And then they did other stuff to where it was in the military space, to where how can you make a person incredibly strong, all with external body systems. So pretty cool stuff. EXO was cool. Then they also had stuff for the construction industry. I'll show you a video in a moment on what they do, but it's pretty much the things that really hurt construction are people getting hurt. People naturally kind of burn out their bodies over time doing kind of like hard construction. And what they do is they pretty much strap this thing to your upper body that once you go like this, everything that you possibly have in your hands, you don't feel the weight anymore. So it's close to impossible to burn out your shoulders, your arms, your elbows, everything lower you still got to figure out. But that's where like 90% of the injuries within construction happen. So it was, how do we make it so people don't burn out their bodies? And then the other part of EXO that I eventually moved into was more of the medical space. I was in their medical department. And I'll have a cool video and you can kind of see it. But it was a product made for people with paraplegia, hemiplegia, and quadriplegia. And it's pretty much if you have some form of locomotion disability, so pretty much you can't walk. It was a suit that you put on, and it allowed you to stand up and start walking again. So people that have been in wheelchairs for decades had a chance to walk. And so that was the part I was in. And then the last one, which was super cool, designing roller coasters at Disney. Like, how does that not sound cool? Super cool. The big reason I didn't go with that is you spend your entire career making one roller coaster, and then once you have designed perfection, you do the same thing over and over and over again with that one roller coaster for decades. So it's really cool in your first like 5 years. But yeah, I joined Exobionics as a junior manufacturing engineer. That's really where I started my professional career. Exobionics. So like I mentioned, this is the construction one, where it's an upper body suit. It has some like really fancy spring systems is what it comes down to. There's no batteries. It naturally like is catered to a person's body. So it's anthropomorphic design is really big within Exobionics. Design a product that actually fits humans rather than have humans fit the product. And so kind of based off how you set it up, it just naturally knows where your arm range of motion is and just helps you lift stuff. Pretty fancy. And this one is ExoNR. So this is the one for people that have some form of lower body motion impairment. But yeah, so started off as junior manufacturing engineer. And then once people started to actually trust me and realize I wasn't some like kid that just walked in, eventually got into manufacturing engineering, one step up. Eventually found my kind of niche within engineering. And that's more so things break, things fail. It's really easy to be like, oh, whatever, put in a new thing, move on. But what I found out was I was good at taking that thing and pushing it towards perfection. Pre-existing idea and refinement. So that is where I really moved into manager of sustaining engineering. So we were looking at all the ways this thing could possibly fail, and there were thousands, absolutely thousands. And make it stop failing. Bring up that reliability. And so we worked on that thing incredibly hard for years. And eventually we got it to a point to where it was the world leader in terms of reliability. You could have this thing in a clinic for years and it wouldn't break. Like no other product in the world can boast that. Because we did such a great job, my team got torn apart. As with every time you do something good. And so when that team kind of disbanded, I took on a different role within Exobionics. And that was, I was the global manager of technical services. And so it's really, if you have a problem with a product, chances are they have a phone number and you call someone. I was the manager at a global scale of all the infrastructure to help support you as an end user, as a customer, of how you actually get through your problem. That doesn't necessarily sound like engineering when you say that loud. It is entirely engineering. Anyone that tells you otherwise is lying. And I absolutely loved it. Loved each and everything about it. But kind of give you an idea of what EXO actually is.
Everyone deserves to live their best life. If you can't walk, we want to help you learn to walk again. EXO is a robot that you can wear that provides power to the legs. EXO is FDA cleared to help physical therapists treat people recovering from stroke and other conditions that have caused them to lose their ability to walk. Every design choice in EXO was made with one goal in mind: create a rehabilitation tool for PTs to help you get more and better steps. EXO has adjustable hardware to make sure it can fit all kinds of patients quickly. PTs use EXO to adapt your treatment and keep challenging you through all stages of your rehab journey. We're rethinking rehabilitation, but we still have the same goal: to help you take your life back. We believe in helping people find their strength. Take the next step with us.
So the person on that video is Kevin Harmer. Before he got into the suit, he hadn't walked in over 6 years. It was through rehabilitation that actually allowed him to eventually regrow the use of his muscles, reuse of his nervous system to actually be able to become what he was before his accident. And that was amazing. So, going through all this, things like that are incredibly hard to do. But it helped me find my why in my life, in my professional life, I should say. Really up until EXO, in my professional life, I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I felt like a job was a thing you would go to, you make a paycheck, you go home. Your home life is your life. You're just going through the motions. And a lot of people feel that way. And if that's what they want in life, that's fine. That's not what I wanted in my life. And so EXO gave me my why in my professional life. It really helped me understand that anyone could really help push medical, technological advancements to truly help. Meeting the unmet medical need is what really became my why because of EXO. To understand that we don't have to accept the way things are. We can change them to be better. And it made me help understand that engineering is not about the money or the prestige, because I know engineering is super prestigious, right? Yeah. It's about creating a better tomorrow. That is what engineering is truly at the heart of it. So as I mentioned earlier, I joined for the wrong reasons. This was the reason why I stayed in engineering. Truly helped. So this is a person named John Bowlby. John Bowlby is a psychiatrist and psychological person from Great Britain. He does a lot of research within childhood attachment. And a lot of times we'll say that children are needy or what have you, and he really tried to unpack that to understand why. And his research actually helped understand why are humans as a core needy, not just children. And it's really, we're only as needy as our unmet needs. And it's really his advice to truly, how do you meet needs? You have to understand your needs. How do you understand your needs? You just listen. You listen to the people that have spinal cord injuries and hear that they want to walk. We listen. You meet the unmet need. So while EXO was growing great, it got even better because I got married. Shout out right there. I was going to put more things about it, but I thought she'd feel awkward. So yeah, got to marry my best friend. Okay. So EXO sounds really great. Awesome, right? EXO is one of those companies that constantly hemorrhage money because we're trying to do groundbreaking things. And that's just what it is. So we dumped all of our money into opening up an entity over in Asia. And we as a company pretty much hedged all our bets on this. If Asia didn't work out, company was closed. Right after we made that investment, COVID. And so Asia shut down. And because of that, we had to cut roughly 90% of the company just to keep doors open. Unfortunately, I was one of those people cut. Looking back on it, I'm glad it happened. Wouldn't have that way one. But it happened. So I started looking for new jobs. Getting a job in the pandemic wasn't easy, but people find a way. I joined a place called Chai Bio as the Global Technical Operations Manager. And so y'all remember like when COVID was really heavy, everyone was like, oh, you need a certain kind of test that takes like months or days to get to show that you don't have COVID. Those are PCR tests, polymerization chain reaction tests. And that's what Chai did. So we were really on the forefront of the emergency use authorizations of getting PCR into the hands of the people so that you didn't have to wait weeks or months to know if you had COVID. We helped kind of reopen the world. to allow humans to come out and go to school again, like go to work again, not be hanging out in their living room all day and wondering like what's going on outside. Chai helped us do that. The cool thing is that was kind of a nice benefit. We also got to make beer taste better. So you can use the same kind of technology to test for bacteria. And pretty much if you have a certain kind of bacteria in your beer, it just tastes disgusting. It's really bad. And so we also use the same kind of technology to search out for that kind of bacteria. And if it was there, have a way to remove that bacteria so that your beer and wine didn't taste terrible. It's pretty cool. The product itself is like that big. So it's like about as wide as my laptop, like that tall. The tech itself, like the hardware, the tech, like I'm from mechanical engineering, so like the hardware, it's actually pretty boring. I would almost like call it like an easy bake oven. You put some stuff on it, like it gets really hot. It turns on a light to see if stuff's going on, and then it gives you a bunch of stuff. It's an easy bake oven. That's an easy bake oven. But what mattered to me is how we were using that technology. We were making a difference with technology. We were helping people, and that was great. The thing that really helped me at Chai though is so back at EXO, I learned really how to manage people, manage teams, which is a great skill set that I hope everyone gets a chance to like really work, understand, and learn. But at Chai, I really learned how to lead. And that's a very different standpoint. You can manage people, but to get them to lead, to understand where do we need to go big picture, and please come along with me, it's a very different mindset. And I'm very thankful for Chai for helping me learn that. Eventually, fatherhood happened. So that's me and my goober. We were at Great America pretty recently, and we rode the piggies in the carousel. Yeah. So fatherhood, understandably, comes with a whole different range of different responsibilities. Right? Yeah. All my work previously has really been in the startup space. Like that's where the cool stuff happens, right? With a child, I decided to move away from the startup space because really, within startups, your position at the company is not secured at any point in time. Just financially, that's how startups happen. They go up and they go under same day. That's just life in the startup world. So I wasn't really ready to bring a child into the world knowing that. So I started looking at other things. And that's where I got to where I'm at today. I'm at Johnson & Johnson. I joined as a senior product support engineer. Oh yeah, Johnson & Johnson is more than baby shampoo. So Johnson & Johnson is really a family of companies that do a ton of different things. And so I'm a senior product support engineer. What a senior product support engineer does is really I assess the system to control the failure mode. So pretty much think of it like this. A product support engineer would have been the person in a car design that said, hey, we should add oil to a motor. Because when you can totally make a motor without oil, there's millions of them in the world today, but when it breaks, it's catastrophic. Like that whole thing is shredded, it's done for. You got to drop the whole new thing in there. And so a product support engineer, where you come in and you rethink to control the failure mode. Failures happen, but how can we make it fail in such a way where it's a non-catastrophic failure? And so that's kind of what I do. So I am on, my focus is in new product introduction of next generation of surgical systems. That's kind of my realm. And the why. Over 5 billion people, like a vast majority of the world, lack access to affordable and safe surgical care. Most people in the world can't get safe surgery, and that is insane. It is 2023. We should be able to provide safe surgery for the masses. We should. As humanity, we should be there by now. And Johnson & Johnson is trying to help with that. I can't tell you a whole lot about the new product, mainly because they make me sign a million different things. But I can tell you about it what you would find online. And so this is a patent that if you Google hard enough, you'll be able to see a picture. I Googled it earlier today to make sure I wasn't getting you anything weird. But this is what we're doing. So pretty much it is an operating room table. So you would lay on a table, and operating room tables are actually pretty crazy. They go up, they down, they do a Trendelenburg tilt, so like that way tilt. They go side to side, they do all kinds of crazy tilts right at the operating room table. And those move relative to surgical needs. So say if I am doing a gastric bypass surgery, it's a heck of a lot easier if I tilt them to their heads closer to the ground because it moves anatomy. It moves stuff out of the way that you need to be operating on. And so we have an operating room table, and then you got these things. Those are robotic arms. They come out over the person. They enter into what we call ports. So almost think of it as a funnel that is inserted into the body. They go into the funnel, and then they do the surgery inside of the body. There is no open chest surgery anymore. It's all robotic going through these tiny, roughly like that big. For super crazy surgeries, they get a little bit bigger, but not much. And so yeah, they go in and they go over the body, and then they'll do whatever kind of surgery that is really set up to do. This is a different product that if you want to Google it, this one's commercially available. It's called Monarch. And pretty much what it is, it has these different robot arms, and it introduces something into the patient airway, and it goes into your lungs. And what it's doing is looking for lung cancer. And so it will go out into your lungs and look for cancerous nodes and remove a little bit of it. And so you can do a biopsy. And this is really a novel way to do lung biopsies. Previous to this, you actually had to do open chest, find the lung, cut off a rather significant part of the lung, and then staple the lung shut. There is a really high failure rate depending on where your cancerous node was. And by failure rate, I meant death. And so there is no more open chest. There is no more needing to staple. What it does is it goes in, and it most times it's a needle, so a tiny little needle. It stabs the cancerous mass, retracts it. It holds that flesh within the needle. You take it out, and then you pretty much drop this needle in this bath. Metal evaporates. You got the flesh. You do the biopsy. So there's no open wounds. And it's great for patient outcomes. It turns a procedure that takes 2 weeks into like 3 hours. So it does a lot of cool stuff. It was designed to, once it finds the cancerous node, to then also remove it. So to do a type of surgery where it's called microwave ablation, to where you pretty much put a metal thing in it, and then you microwave it from the inside out. And so you can do very targeted tissue removal that way. So think of it as like radiation that you might see in like cancer treatments. Those beams are huge, right? So you might want to radiate like a tiny thing, but your whole body is getting that radiation. Not with microwave ablation. Targeted. We're not clear on the FDA to do that yet. We're still working through clinical trials for them to give us a thumbs up. But one day we'll get there. But yeah, that's Monarch. If you want to Google it, you can find their website. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I work on this part, the surgical platform, and as product support engineer over there. So, from what I understand, a lot of people in here want to get into engineering one day. So I thought I threw up a slide on navigating engineering. It's not easy. I'll tell you that right now. It's not easy. First and foremost, study intelligently if you want to achieve. Once you get out of academia, your studying days are not over. I went to school for applied math and mechanical engineering. That's got absolutely nothing to do with biology. I'm working in a bio-heavy field. You gotta learn. You want to stay relevant. But with that comes the concept of studying intelligently, understanding that you don't know something and that you need to learn and find out about it, understanding your needs, fulfilling your needs. The school you went to in engineering truly does not matter at all long term. It's going to matter when you get out of school. People are going to ask you. It's going to happen. Give it like 2 to 3 years. Same playing field as everyone else. Truly does not matter. like at all. The absolute best engineer I've ever met doesn't have an engineering degree. Started as an engineering technician, where you truly do not need a degree to do that. He learned, he understood his needs to become an engineer, and he's easily the best out of the thousands I've met. Engineering is a team endeavor. If you are a person that likes to work in their silo, good for you. Engineering is probably not going to work out for you. No one can change the world through any kind of product by working alone. It's just not how it works. Opposites complement each other. Get different people in the room, understand different sides of the story, different facets of the need to make something good. Learn to understand your needs as well as the needs of those that you serve. Engineering, by far, is a service industry. We are creating products to help people, to help the earth, to help something. We're not making products to hurt things. We're making products to help. In order to help, you have to understand what you are trying to help. Not what you think you're trying to help, like your idea of it, but actually like what the heck's going on. You have to understand the needs. And lastly, challenge yourself to do better. We wouldn't have Tesla with automatic driving cars if people didn't challenge themselves to do better. We wouldn't have robots that are able to do surgery halfway across the world if we didn't challenge ourselves to do better. We wouldn't have people walking for the first time in decades. We didn't challenge ourselves to do better. Challenge yourself every day and always. And nice little quote, Albert Einstein. Scientists investigate that which already is. Engineers create that which has never been. We create it. That's what I got. Any questions? Thank you.
Would you mind speaking a little bit more about like a career search in STEM, in engineering maybe?
Yeah. So y'all know how I went to EXO, right? I found them on Craigslist. It was a fluke. Don't use Craigslist. One of the things that helped me out immensely was working with the department at my school. So they had a very small group of like 1 or 2 people that help people refine their resumes and actually have an interview with them and understand like kind of what do you want to do in the world and kind of help me branch out to better apply at the right places so I don't join the workforce and be like, so yeah, working with people that are actually dedicated to help you find your path is incredibly amazing. Beyond that, find someone you look up to and talk to them. I'm incredibly close to my grandfather. He's a great guy. I talk to him a lot. And he helped me understand, as well as kind of put me in touch with people that were more like, he's not an engineer, it's not his world, but he knows people that is. So kind of talk to people that you trust.
Would you mind speaking about like where you think the future of like the work that you're doing is going? Like, how much more advanced could this like exoskeleton really?
Yeah, exoskeletons are super cool, aren't they?
That's
Pretty crazy. Yeah. One of the really cool things that is kind of on the docket today is taking the technology and making it tiny, miniaturization. And so one of the things that we were able to do is, y'all ever see kangaroo shoes? And so they're pretty much shoes that got like crazy like springs in them that allow you to jump like a little bit more. Yeah. Same concept, miniaturize it. We were able to have a person jump onto the top of a building back at EXO. So miniaturization is pretty cool. The thing that is going to hinder all technology that is kind of this sort is batteries. Batteries, power. So where do I see the future of energy? Power engineers. They are going to be the one that really help allow us to lift the curtain to actually truly see where we can go. Because everyone has ideas, and then they'll do a bunch of crazy math and be like, oh, well, guess I need the power of the sun to do this. I need like 10 actual lightsabers to turn this thing on. Not going to happen. And that's where ideas go to die. But yeah, power engineers are going to be crucial to pushing technology.
Any other questions?
Any weird questions about robots? I'm really nerdy about robots. Robots are cool. I was really big into like battle bots for a little while. Pretty cool.
We actually have a question from Zoom. If you had to do anything differently along your path, what would it have been?
So probably the thing that I probably would have done most different was that when I was at EXO, I lived, breathe, ate EXO. Like I let it become too much of my personality. Like it was a core chunk of me. And when I got let go, that was incredibly hard. It's like taking a part of your personality and ripping it out. I wish I had better understood that that was a job, and that job allowed me to help humanity. But it was an avenue for me to do something. It wasn't who I was. And so better understanding that probably would have been great. Beyond that, probably study harder in thermodynamics. I hated thermo. That was gross. Yeah, probably that.
Could one other question as well. Could you talk about like more about your transition like from home to like a 4-year college and like how you kind of adjusted not just academically but like the independent living of it as well?
Yeah. So going to college was a great way for me to grow up. I went to college, and that first year, I did everything that I should have done. I did all the stupid things. And my grades suffered incredibly. It got to the point to where I unfortunately lost a few of my scholarships. And so it allowed me to realize that you can't just go out and be a child, that you actually are here for a reason. And that reason is to learn so that you can make something of yourself one day. And so my entrance into college was hindered by me being stupid. But it allowed me to get my stupid out in a controlled environment, which I'm very thankful for. Very, very thankful for. Get rid of the stupid. It's great. I'm sorry, you had a second part to your question.
Yeah, just like that in general, of like how you manage that transition. Like you talked about how your grades started failing, but how did you kind of like?
Yeah, how did I manage that?
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, going back home wasn't an option for me. So it was realizing that I needed to study, to self-manage, and to actually move forward. So how did I manage that? Realize that life is very real, and that if I flunked out here, I would probably be going back to Illinois, where they have, it's over 70% of the people that live there go to jail at some point in their lives. I think it's over 30% have extreme drug problems. And I didn't want that for myself. So it was buckle up or that's your life. Little dose of reality was tough.
Yeah, definitely. Great. I think food should be here soon. If there's anyone who hasn't signed in yet for attendance, there's a computer in the back where you can do so. There's also a QR code on all the tables. If you can please fill out, point your phone at it and fill out the survey, that would be helpful as well. And Chad will be hanging out here once, as well when the food gets here. If you have any other questions that pop up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question actually.
Do you know of any internships for students, maybe Johnson & Johnson or any sort of?
Yeah, I'll send them to Heidi when I get home. So Johnson & Johnson does a ton of internships. They actually do internships on the product I work on. So if you want to like play with like cool robots that do like they stab people, which is pretty cool. We have internships. again, they start as early as the minimum bar is high school graduation. But yeah, I'll send them over. They do a bunch of stuff. If you are really interested in manufacturing engineering, so that's where you take a product from really concept and actually make it. That's manufacturing engineering. That is where the vast majority of their internships go. And so it's great to see that initial thought to product. But yeah, I'll send them over to Heidi to make sure everyone has access.
Thank you. Has there been any like projects that you've worked on, like something that was like maybe too ahead of its time that didn't work out?
Yeah, back at EXO on the military side, we had this thing to where it was made for the Marine Corps to where you put it on and it allowed for extreme upper body strength, like lifting cars, like crazy, crazy shit. Let's be real. No one needs that. And so it was really, we didn't understand the needs. And so we were kind of just making like really cool stuff. So there is that. The main problem with that is it's really cool to lift cars by yourself, right? That just sounds cool. It's not so cool if you can only do it like 30 feet away because you got a like massive like power cord behind you. Not as cool. There's that. Other stuff that was probably ahead of its time. COVID. Getting COVID tests out. So the natural design cycle for a test, which is COVID tests are really, really complicated. And they're really, really complicated because we need to better understand where the virus is located at in the body because of just how corona as a virus operates. And because of that, COVID naturally branches out into other organisms. We need to be able to effectively weed out, do you have COVID from your dog that just happens to be in your airway and your dog has it, but it's not actually infected you? Or do you have human COVID? And if you look at that natural design cycle of how long it takes to make a test that complicated, that accurate, we are talking years. But we had a very dedicated team that pretty much didn't sleep for like 6 months. And they did it.
We got another question from Zoom. Going back to the best engineer you knew, what made him stand out from the rest of the crowd?
His name's Russ. So why was Russ good? Russ was good for a lot of reasons. In engineering, if you want to get ahead, it's incredibly important to find a mentor, someone that you're look up to, but more able to trust. Because you're going to be working with complicated things, and pretty much going to saying to someone, hey, I don't understand this, requires some layer of trust. Russ was incredibly easy to talk to, and you knew like when you talked to him, like that wasn't going anywhere. It was the softer side of engineering. And at the same time, I could talk to him and I can tell you probably like this problem I've been working on for months, Russ could probably solve it in like 5 minutes, just too smart for some good. But to help pull you along in the thought process, to bring you with him so that you actually get the resolution yourself. You didn't actually need Russ, he just helped you along. I do this one thing that still today that Russ taught me, and that's the rubber ducky approach. I suggest everyone to do this, especially if you have a class on coding. The rubber ducky approach is you get a yellow rubber ducky, you put it on your desk, and when you're working on a problem that you just cannot solve for the life of you, so like debugging code, you talk about your problem to your rubber ducky. You say it out loud. And just by vocalizing, chances are you're going to solve your problem. People naturally communicate better through the spoken word. And Russ really understood that. So yeah, it's really the softer side, the mentorship, as well as incredibly humble, very down to earth. But yeah, it was the brilliance, but not rubbing it in your face.
Can you talk more about like, you know, what what makes a good like team member like in engineering, like what sort of other qualities you need?
Yeah. So when you get into engineering, you're going to find out that practically everything we're going to work on is a project. It's very project based. And so depending on what kind of project management methodology, there's a thing called Agile. That's kind of like the buzz thing in project management these days. Within Agile, there's a concept of conversation box. And it's kind of, imagine a box that you put around yourself. You frame it up, and I'm willing to converse up until this level. Everything out that is outside of my box. Like, I'm not comfortable talking about things outside of that. And you'll get that, especially a lot with more specialized engineers, to where this is my domain. I talk about my domain. I don't know about anything else. The most important part as a new engineer is to take that conversation box and rip it up. Get outside of your comfort zone, talk to the engineers that have been there forever to truly help understand and to move forward. So don't be constrained by what you feel as your comfort zone.
Could you give some advice of like how to get out of your comfort zone, I guess in general? And
How to get out of your comfort zone? Find people you're willing to look stupid in front of. If there is no one you're willing to look stupid in front of, Google a lot before you say your stupid question. Chances are you're going to find out some of your stuff. But really, like engineering is getting the same problem wrong 90 times until you get it right once. Like that is engineering. You're going to fail. You're going to fail a lot. The whole point of engineering is failing fast, failing effectively, failing cheaply, so you can get to the resolution faster. How do you get out of your comfort zone? Accepting that. Failure will happen. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, then I don't trust your product. Accept that. Move forward. Every engineer that you're ever going to meet, if they're decent, have accepted that. Move forward.
thank you.
No problem. Yeah. What's up?
I'm not aware that you're sorry. That you went into the applied mathematics, but how is it relevant to? Is it still relevant to like the profession you're in?
The actual branch of mathematics, no. So the last time I pulled out like fancy math to do something, it's probably, I don't know, like 5 years ago. But what it did help is thought process. So one of the things, at least in my math program, that they beat out of me is memorization. Like they beat it out of me. Like for the life of me, I can't memorize stuff these days. Like it just doesn't work. But to understand the core concepts of how to best describe a problem was incredibly vital to the rest of my career. So how do you take that mindset of like, don't go against the predefined rules, but understand at a base, what do you truly need and work from there. And that is what I learned in applied math.
Any other questions? No? Awesome. Then thank you so much, Chad.
No problem.
For